Welcome to the Monday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday morning. Hey Astro, how's it going? Merry Monday, 12 days to Christmas. Yep, that's right. That is correct. A nighttime tornado devastates the town of Sacramento, Kentucky. Yeah, there were several tornadoes that impacted, I think, several states actually. Truly a devastating event, and we'll talk about that in a second. Hey Tendera, how's it going? I just saw those tornadoes form on the radar. Yeah. That is wild. Unbelievable. unbelievable, this situation. And I think like some of the takeaways are, well, this does have relation to, of course, this does have relation to climate change, and the other aspect of it is, I believe just under a dozen. I believe just under a dozen workers got stuck in an Amazon warehouse. Well, sorry. Just under a dozen workers died because they were stuck in an Amazon warehouse. And because apparently they were told that they had to keep working even though there was a tornado watch or warning. I was keeping up with the storm chaser guy when he freaked out. You know, it's bad. Yeah, it was really bad. One of them in particular, which I believe they posted, Political Talks posted a news article up here. One of them, one of the tornadoes was going around for 200 and something miles. Radical Maniac with a party of 12. Thank you so much. Excuse me, with a party of 15. Thank you so much. Hey, Dakapolyon, morning. Yes, it was the Amazon warehouse in Illinois and candle factory in Kentucky. Yes, yeah, that's unbelievable to me. That they would allow, or they would force, I should say, workers to continue to be there. Like, the situation is so dangerous that it is unfathomable to me. It is unfathomable to me. Thank you so much for the raid, by the way. How's it going, everybody? Welcome, welcome in. You guys just started at the perfect time. You guys just came in at the perfect time. We are about to start our daily news and politics. If you guys don't know who we are A Difficult Truth. We do politics Monday through Thursday about 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Join us for Saturday Catterdays about noon Eastern Time. Kitty Cat's guaranteed, so make sure you hit that follow button and you get 5 free emotes. How about that? And you all cool peeps in chat, hope you're all well. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Radical Maniac. Appreciate that. If you guys don't already, make sure you hit that follow button on twitch.tv/radicalmaniac. Go show them some support. Appreciate that. My cousin was supposed to be on shift that night at the Illinois warehouse. She quit that morning. Oh, man. Jeez, Dakapolyon. The death toll is over 70 and they expect over 100. Yep, that's what I heard. That's what I heard. It is just unfathomable to me that a company is allowed to operate in this manner. I mean, like, these are people's lives that they're playing with, and it is just unacceptable that this happened. This is not okay. It was her section of the warehouse that got hit. That is just wild. I'm not positive, but I think they had 12-hour shifts and $8 pay. Jesus, K variable. Holy yikes. I mean, like, that's like a separate thing, but nonetheless, you could be getting paid like $25 an hour. You could be getting paid $25 an hour. All of that is irrelevant when there is a genuine weather event, adverse weather event that could potentially threaten your life, or I should say, your employee's life in the warehouse. There's no amount of excuses. There's no amount of excuses that would excuse this, right? The 11 state minimum is $11. Yeah, even if they were paid $11, $20, $8, all of that is irrelevant. They played with people's lives, and some folks died. Every company should close for all major weather warnings. Yeah, you would suspect that should be like common sense, right? You would suspect that's kind of like common, like, of course. But they held these people in this warehouse, and as a result, unfortunately, some of them passed away. The warnings for these tornadoes literally said catastrophic. That is unbelievable. That is unbelievable to me that they still held these folks there. Hello, kitty cat. Let's see if we can get her back up in her little spot. I don't know if she's gonna be joining us today, but come on, kitty. Okay. Those areas have record low minimum wage. 30 an hour wouldn't be worth working in those hellish conditions. Yeah, I mean, like, even if you were being paid like $30 an hour, none of that is worth your life. None of that is worth your life. I mean, like, that is unfathomable to me that there is no such there's like no regulation. Is there not like some type of like labor law that says that, hey, listen, if you've got a catastrophic warning, you cannot be in operation. You gotta wait till all those warnings are lifted, right? And if so, would Amazon then be liable? I mean, like, logically, I would argue, yeah, of course. I would argue, yeah. You hired people that forced employees to stay there. Because according to what I understand, it was the supervisors who made them stay there. Right? It wasn't like literally Jeff Bezos there telling everybody they have to stay. But the supervisors, right? And acting in such capacity tells me that there should be some type of liability. Oh, K variable, send that to me in whispers and I'll post it in chat. Definitely think people weigh the risk of life against a certain amount of money. Not saying this was here, but if I paid $100 an hour, you had some real risk of dying. Many people would do that. I don't know. Imagine like tying that to your, like, imagine that like being a thing. Do you not see like a problem with that? Seems to me like you're putting a price on the possibility of you dying? I don't know. It sounds kind of weird. Never mind. Let me rephrase that. It encourages you to take these type of risks if that's the, scenario. I can't imagine it would be hard or very expensive to build a secure location if you're around that type of weather condition to make sure people were relatively safe. How much does a bunker cost? More than 12 square mile warehouse? Yeah, I don't know, Radical Maniac. I mean, like, I don't know, like, what the situation is, but for sure, there's got to be some type of, like, regulation that has to deal with this, right? I mean, like, do people just have to work through, like, a catastrophic weather event? Like, I don't see that being a thing, right? Or you've got to prove to regulators that your facility is capable of operating in a safe manner. Like, I don't see any other way. Hey, Heat, how's it going? Oh, yeah, that was terrible. Yeah. Like, it's all over the news. They're still talking about it. Yeah, it's very horrible. And I mean, if there are no regulations that state that you have to provide a safe, like, to provide a safe environment, then clearly that was not met. Clearly that was not met. I mean, the people shouldn't have been there to begin with, but even if someone did have, but even if someone did have to be there, there should have been precautions built in to try to keep people safe. Right, that's what I'm exactly correct, Radical Maniac. That's exactly correct, because, like, how are you allowed to operate a business with, by putting your employees in that predicament? Last year, they made my cousin drive 45 minutes in a blizzard with black ice to work, or they were going to fire her. Jesus. And you said, she worked for Amazon, right? Jesus Christ. Did you hear about the meteor shower tonight? What? Monday night into Tuesday morning. Okay. Hey. That's interesting, folks. Just take a quick 2-second detour here. If you guys want to see one of the most vivid meteor showers, go outside tonight. Hey, Spread It Forward, how's it going? That is unbelievable to me. Like, that should be illegal, Nakapolion. That should be illegal. That is literally attempting to, you're forcing your employee to go into a obviously hazardous environment without any type of precaution whatsoever in a blizzard with black ice, which is just like the recipe for disaster if something were to happen. I would argue that's Amazon's fault, because you're coercing a person's livelihood, which in this system we depend on currently as is. So yeah, it is incredibly coercive. Either you drive in a blizzard or you're fired. That's not really a choice, is it? That is just ridiculous to me. Is that legal? That feels like it shouldn't be legal. I saw somebody shooting stars. I saw them turning green and blue in the atmosphere. Wow. I saw the cold front come in and wash away the mosquitoes. Yeah, that's one thing about the cold, right? It's one benefit. Unfortunately, here in South Florida, there's no such thing. I saw a post on Reddit where the manager fired a guy for being in a car accident and unable to work. That's just wild. That's just wild. You should doubt anything that's posted on the internet. I mean, it's not something that hasn't happened before, just saying. It's not something that hasn't happened before. Illinois is a right-to-work state. They can fire you because the sky is blue. True. Last Street Prophet, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. That is true. Alright, folks, we gotta get into some of this here. Mark your timers if you guys want to see a legit meteor shower. The Geminids will light up the sky Monday night into Tuesday morning, and NASA calls this shower one of the best and most reliable for its bright, fast, and abundant meteors. At its peak at 2 a.m., wherever you are, the shower can produce more than 50 meteors per hour. However, dark skies are optimal for viewing meteor showers, and the moon will be approximately 77% lit during its peak, so the meteors could be difficult to spot. The moon will begin to set and won't interfere with much of the visibility starting 2 a.m. to dawn, so it may be worth pulling half an all-nighter. Just half, folks. Just half. I would bet at least 95% on that subreddit are fake. I don't know. That's a big claim. That's a very big claim. I work at a sawmill. There are large, like, that doesn't even make sense. That's like literally just making up a statistic. How do you verify that? Have you been on that subreddit? Did you try to like verify how many of these stories are true or not? I don't know. Seems kind of weird to make that claim. I work at a sawmill. There are large boilers that can be dangerous if left alone, but in that situation, if there's a tornado or some other thing, it would take less than a minute to get into the bunker, secured location away from the storm and boilers if it was actually built and prepared. That's all I mean. Yeah, I mean, like, if you're gonna have to work, or if you're going to, if you're, like, in a situation where, I don't know, this is just how, this is just the nature of your job, then your job, their responsibility, is to make sure that you have a safe environment, right? Like, that's just, like, basic, right? How is it possible? How is what happened here legal? How is it possible that whatever happened here is legal? Hello, Kitty. You want to come up with us today? Oh, Kitty. Yeah, all we got are thoughts and prayers. True. Knowledge is power. Well, that's true. Alright, Kitty. You're gonna have to be chill, okay? For optimal viewing experience, don't bother using a telescope because it would limit your view of the sky. The naked eye is the best instrument to track these shooting stars. The meteor shower would be sporadic, so grab a lawn chair and plan to sit outside for a while. While you can't control the moon's brightness, moving away from city lights can help with visibility, since you'll avoid light pollution in the sky. Well, there you go, folks. There you go. If anything, I hope that... If anything, I hope that this, this tragic incident gets people angry enough to legitimize the idea of worker unionization, right? How is it possible that these conditions are allowed? I was thinking there's no way this is normal amount of shooting stars. We saw so many. Yeah. I can't wait to get a kitty. It's a countdown for me. As soon as I have time, I'm gonna raise one with my pupper. Aw, that's adorable. Makita is the resident kitty. One of a difficult truth's resident kitties. Our co-host, Bree, has 3 cats. Bailey, Pip, and Marble. Which, in Saturday Catterdays, ow, hey, be nice. Be nice, kitty. No bites, okay? No bites. Be nice, kitty, okay? No. Off my keyboard. Hey, stop pressing it. Stop pressing the keyboard. Hey. Yeah, love bites, sure. That being said, in some good news, I'm sure most of you folks already know. I feel like having a cat is easier than having a dog. I agree. I agree. In what seems to be like good vibes, Starbucks workers formed their first union in the US in a big win for labor. Starbucks workers have voted to form their first US union. Workers from one store in Buffalo, New York voted to unionize in a watershed moment for Starbucks, which operates 8,953 stores in the US. 3 Buffalo area stores held separate union elections. Barista and shift supervisors from one store voted to unionize 19-8. Wow. While workers from the second store rejected unionization 12-8. A third store failed to reach a verdict and faces a legal battle. There are 15 votes were cast for unionization and 9 against, while 7 votes were challenged. Most of the challenges came from the union, which argued that some workers who voted weren't regular employees at the location. This election marks one of the highest profile union wins for U.S. restaurant workers, which are among the least unionized in the country. Starbucks workers who voted to unionize will join Workers United, affiliated with the massive Service Employees International Union. Well, congratulations. That is great. Hey. Alright, that's enough. She's like trying to use my arm as a chew toy. Jesus. I'm so glad I'm wearing this jacket. My dog is really well potty trained. She tells me when she wants to go if I haven't already gotten her out in a few hours. Yeah, that's good. Three more Buffalo stores and 1 in Arizona are also trying to unionize. Starbucks has promoted its reputation as a progressive employer with generous benefits, arguing that a union is not necessary. Wait. Nah, that's a bit of a contradiction, right? Mouselander. That is the way cats kissed. Yeah, unfortunately, that leaves me with, Yeah, it hurts. Don't know how I got so lucky with this adopted, disbanded Staffordshire pit bull. That's adorable. In fact, Starbucks have fought off organization attempts in New York City and Philadelphia decades earlier in the 1980s. The United Food and Commercial Workers International Union for a while represented some Starbucks staff. That union still represents workers at some locations run by grocery stores and not directly by Starbucks. Then last year, workers at a corporate-run Starbucks store in Canada unionized, and now 3 additional locations in Buffalo area and 1 in Arizona are pursuing a union. And that's the importance of winning that that battle, right? The idea that 1 or potentially 2 out of 3 may be unionized is starting to encourage unionization across the board, which is good, which is undeniably good. Unionization in this country is pretty much non-existent. From what I understand, about 10%-ish of the labor force here is unionized. Both of my pitties are super easy to train, and they're both super smart dogs. That's awesome. Love pit bulls. My stepmom has one named Sugar. Nice. I think a unionized Starbucks restaurant will demonstrate to workers that it's not easy, but they can do it, said Rebecca Givan, a labor studies professor at Rutgers University. We will likely see many more organizing drives. That's a good thing. In a Thursday letter to staff shared by NPR, Starbucks North America President Roseanne Williams said, "For now, the union results entail no immediate changes. The vote outcome will not change our shared purpose or how we will show up for each other. We want to protect partner flexibility, transferability, and benefits across all stores in a market or a district because we know that's important to partners." Yeah, well, a union can help bring leverage in favor of workers. Well, I assume that they mean partner by partner. I assume they mean workers, right? Both of mine are rescues, both stolen from horrible people. Wow. Well, glad you were able to rescue them. Nice, spread it forward. I'm rooting for them, but they have to work to set up the union. If they succeed, they can be the pilot for other stores. Exactly. That's why this is so important. Exactly correct. The Buffalo vote garnered nationwide attention and support from key labor figures such as Bernie Sanders. Starbucks headquarters also responded to the drive by flying a wave of corporate executives into Buffalo, including Williams and also legendary former CEO Howard Schultz. The pro-union Starbucks workers advocated for better staffing, training, and pay, including steady wage increase for workers who stay with the company for years, only to discover their pay is not much more than of new hires. Hours before federal officials set the union vote for Buffalo stores, Starbucks announced it would raise its starting pay to $15 an hour and boost wages for staff employed longer than 2 to 5 years, plus make changes to its training and scheduling. Yeah, like the threat of unionization is also strong in and of itself. My first pupper given to me was a full-blooded Amstaff pit bull with papers. Jaeger, the second one I have now, is pure blood. Both big babies who just want to cuddle and play. That's adorable. Lovely breeds to look into. Hey, homonyms, virgin corporate executives versus Giga Chad unions. We had a purebred dachshund, stubborn as a mule. We had a mini pincher, mini Doberman pincher, like those little tiny, like mini pins. Cute. Why were those Amazon workers that died in the tornadoes at work at all? That's a very good question, Mouselander. That is a very good question. Why were they there at all in the first place? Why did their supervisor say they had to stay despite knowing that there is catastrophic weather incoming? As I was saying earlier, Mouselander, this feels illegal, right? Like, how is it possible that this is okay? I don't know. I don't know if Amazon is going to face any type of consequences or anything of the sort. If they're, I mean, they should. How is it possible that they allowed this? Buffalo workers later accused Starbucks of breaking the law by interfering with their labor organizing. They filed a federal labor charge saying the chain was engaging in a campaign of threats, intimidation, and surveillance and other illegal activity in response to their efforts to unionize. Yep, same thing with the Amazon Bessemer warehouse. Starbucks denied those allegations and said it complies with all labor organizing laws and guidelines. Yeah, excuse me if I don't believe you. Because money, at university they got paid whether they were in class or not. None of these shenanigans get to a shelter. Right, like, I just don't see how this could be, like, legally, right? Like, how is it possible that you're allowed to do this? I hope their families sue and get proper backing to fight the largest corporation. True. True. Very true. Starbucks also argued that all 20 stores in Buffalo area should vote in the union election rather than 3 individual stores, noting that workers can pick up shifts at different stores. Federal labor officials repeatedly disagreed, finding each store to be fairly autonomous and declining to delay the election or the vote count over the matter. They probably felt like they could probably win by spreading it out this way. Instead of having each individual domino fall, they want to try to roll the dice and see if they could win the vote this way. Nah, fam. Because, like, could you imagine if, like, they did the entire vote for the whole area, all the 20 stores? Can you imagine if it loses? That would probably disincentivize unionization, right? But if one store wins, and another store wins, and another one wins, and another one wins, that encourages unionization, right? The dominoes fall one after the other. In theory, it could be a possibility. If it's legal, something should be done. Absolutely. Absolutely. If the ability for a company to allow to be in operation, knowing full well that there is a catastrophic weather event coming, then there should be some liability there. Because, like, that's on you, dude. That's on you. I don't shop at Amazon, but unfortunately I have subs on Twitch. I try my best not to support Amazon. Well, to be fair, Dakapalyan, to be fair, Twitch is but a drop in the bucket for Amazon. Amazon seems to not even, like... Does Amazon even remember they have Twitch? I don't know. Twitch is, like, but a drop in the bucket for Amazon. That being said, if you can shop local or if you can shop directly from folks, then do so. It's probably better, yeah? The grim reality, true. Hey, Hominem, I hate Jeff Bezos so much, true. But, like, again, someone made decisions here, and I think that they should be liable. I think Amazon should be liable. I think Amazon as the entity should be liable here. In a just world, right? In a just world, like there should be some type of accountability, right? Or like, I mean, how could there not? How could there be a scenario where a warehouse, which isn't like essential, if there's catastrophic weather that could destroy it anyways, why would you force people to work there? Why would you force people to work? Like, what was the point of that, right? Like, what was the point of that? If you know that there's like massive catastrophic weather events that are happening, right? Like tornadoes and stuff like that that could just very easily destroy your warehouse. Like, what is the point? I mean, you do what you can, Dakaballion. Something small and random, I may wonder more, but something the size of what happened there. There's no way they didn't have some kind of warning. They just decided to chance it and bring that line higher. Yeah, I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, who's to say that, you know, who's to say that the supervisor that made that decision was told to do that, right? I mean, like, there is no way in my mind that they didn't know. Right? Because, like, you have plenty of EMS, like emergency services that text for hurricanes and tornadoes and bad weather, right? Blizzards and all this other stuff. There's no way that they did not know. This was a decision that was made, and yeah, it cost people's lives. We got the notice about 4 minutes before the sirens. And how long before because once the sirens go off, how long do you have once that happens? Hold on, folks. The sirens go off when the tornado is on the ground. Okay, but how do you know that that tornado is coming your way, right? I assume that's what the sirens are for? Jeff Bezos isn't alone to blame, of course. It's a system that allows and even encourages them to do such things. Yeah, exactly. Plus, there's a question of how much of your upbringing really influences you and so on. I mean, yeah, but, like, I think that, like, it's safe to say that regardless, this kind of system does encourage it, right? I mean, line go up, line good. Here in Houston, we have tornado warnings letting us know that within the next few hours we could see one, which is similar to like shelter in place. Yeah, if you had like hours ahead of time, I mean, there's just no excuse. But, you know. We were under a tornado watch all that day. What? So, like, the possibility was there. Yeah, this seems like criminal negligence. Like, you would think so. Spread it forward. You would think so. I don't know what consequences, or if any, Amazon is going to face. Because how is it that you don't, like, what is the importance of having that one warehouse open, knowing that there's a tornado watch that entire day? Like, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it. Because, like, let's say, obviously you're not 100% sure that a tornado is going to hit your exact warehouse, but if there's a tornado watch all day and a tornado does hit your warehouse, then it's all kind of irrelevant, right? It's all done anyways, right? Neoliberalism doesn't go left or right. It recognizes the only direction that matters is up. If your only aim is profits, then you're to go up, then you're not going to care about the quality of lives of your employees going down. Yeah. That's true. Geez, these images are just horrifying. There's a host of people who make a profit out of all this death and destruction. Well, I'm sure there is, that's for sure. I wouldn't be surprised, Astro. We go under probably 200 watches a year with nothing coming from them, so they did a cost-benefit analysis and decided to stay running. Yeah, they game theoried this. They game theoried this out, and unfortunately, when you do these type of decisions, well, been a long time since I've seen that much devastation. It shook me for a full day when I realized the scale. Yikes. Shifting gears, White House official allegedly said National Guard troops would protect Trump supporters on January 6. A report on Sunday came out that recommends Trump administration Chief of Staff Mark Meadows be held in contempt of Congress, alleges he said the National Guard troops would keep President Trump supporters safe on January 6, and bullet points listing urgent questions for Meadows. The report by the House committee investigating the Capitol riots cite an email he is allegedly to have sent on January 5th about the security of Trump supporters who would hit the street the next day. The recipient of the email is not identified. Mr. Meadows sent an email to an individual about the events of January 6 and said the National Guard would be present to protect pro-Trump people and that many more would be available on standby. An attorney for Meadows did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The claim adds a different angle to the government response to the January 6. Despite widespread forecasts of potential unrest, Capitol Police appeared to be overwhelmed by the incursion, and the National Guard was slow to respond. Yeah, so there's a lot of like dynamics that we're slowly unveiling. And one of those dynamics was a couple of the generals from the National Guard seem to have lied or seem to have omitted certain things, and now it seems to be that certain folks within the administration or adjacent to it had the belief, whether or not it's true or not, they were under the belief or under the impression that the National Guard would be on the Trump supporters' side. So that is very strange. A report was released to support a resolution to hold Meadows in contempt. A simple majority of the House could produce a contempt of Congress citation that would be transferred to the Justice Department. A federal grand jury last month indicted Steve Bannon, a former top advisor to Trump, on 2 allegations of contempt of Congress, one for refusing to appear for a deposition, another for declining to produce documents the committee requested. Bannon pleaded not guilty to both counts. Meadows and Bannon have claimed that they are exempt from the law because they are covered by executive privilege, the doctrine that seeks to protect certain communications with the president to allow White House leaders to freely lead and respond to crises. Bannon left the White House in 2017 but maintained a relationship with Trump. Now, I don't know if Meadows was still there. But in the case of Bannon, you can't claim executive privilege if you weren't under the executive administration. That's not how this works. I'm not sure it would be safe, home or work, or in a tornado if it's gonna be only worse. I'm glad I don't live in those areas. Oof. I've lived in Tornado Alley my whole life. Yikes. I have no idea, Astro, to be quite frank. The Select Committee is confident that there's no conceivable immunity or executive privilege claim that would bar the Select Committee's request to justify Mr. Meadows' blanket refusal to appear for the required deposition. Meadows has twice failed to show up for scheduled depositions before the committee investigators this fall, even though he produced documents that would only be part of his testimony. Other documents, it said, might have been misplaced. It appears that Mr. Meadows has not complied with the legal requirements to retain or archive documents under the Presidential Records Act. The Select Committee to investigate the January 6 attack on the U.S. Capitol is trying to find out whether high-level politicians or high-level political organizing was behind the violence during which Trump supporters stormed the Capitol as they sought to thwart congressional certification of the 2020 presidential election won by Joe Biden. The panel has alleged that Meadows has knowledge of Trump's activities on January 6 and appeared to have lines of communication with organizers of a rally near the Capitol that day. Well, we know that for sure, that they had like a little war room, as Steve Bannon called it, in a hotel that was sort of close sort of close, and they were all there on the day before. We also have Steve Bannon admitting before January 6th that in his podcast that they were attempting to come up with plans. What plans? I have no idea. Attempting to come up with plans to, quote, just quoting him, kill the Biden administration in its infancy. Mr. Meadows was in contact with Mr. Meadows was in contact with at least some of the private individuals who planned and organized January 6th, one of whom reportedly may have expressed safety concerns to Mr. Meadows about January 6th. I mean, like, yeah, this was kind of public. Like, it was everywhere. Meadows received a text from an organizer of the rally on the ellipse, apparently as people moved towards the Capitol seeking direction after things had gotten crazy. Wait, why would an organizer text Meadows, who is a, chief of staff for direction? Brian McCalamari, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. The report also indicates that the committee believes Meadows may have known significant information about Trump's request to Georgia's Secretary of State to find a precise number of votes that would overturn his loss there. I would not be surprised. We already have that very well documented, very perfect phone call with Trump trying to request, direct the Georgia Secretary of State, Raffensperger, to find, produce the exact number. What was it? 10,000 something? Because, he totally won Georgia. And there's no way that Trump could lose. So, yeah. These things are coming to light. And the more details that come out, the darker it seems, right? The more details come out of this, the darker it seems. Roger Stone was kicking it with the Oath Keepers prior to the insurrection, if my memory is correct. I don't know. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. The thing that's like disturbing that we know we have like documented evidence of. I mean, like indisputable. It's on audio. It's on recording. Is the Stephen Bannon thing, right? Yeah, that's the real disturbing part. Is the Stephen Bannon thing. That is like undeniable, undisputable. It's right there. The purpose of him and the people in those rooms, according to him and his podcast, unless he's lying about it, I don't know. It seemed like a boast to me. It seemed like he was boasting that they were trying to come up with plans to kill the Biden administration in its infancy. Mike or Sam not live. Wait, what does that mean? Also, Seattle's lovely right-wing journalist Katie Daviscourt was at the 6th Writers for NGOs. Oh, knows post-millennial work for the Turning Point. Turning Point USA, she also tweeted public reminders about how Congress members will travel through underground tunnels in D.C. That is disturbing. That is disturbing. We also had, didn't somebody was alleged, like, putting, locations on Twitter? I forget. Either way, I mean, like, all of this is going to come to light, I assume, once they really start releasing the entirety of the report from what exactly happened from beginning to end, how it went down, who knew, where the communications were, and just how much involvement was there from, Trump officials, if not him himself. A few political types gave tours prior, and yeah, one of them was tweeting out locations, which is really weird, because if you're trying to escape or evacuate the building, why would you be putting locations? The FBI is not saying everything they know? Yeah, like the thing is, Jared Cardenas, which welcome by the way, I think that also there is a massive failure. There is a massive failure with how the information that the FBI did know, because I mean, like, this was public, by the way. This wasn't like a well-kept secret. This was all over the place. It was on Parler, it was on Gab, it was on Facebook, it was on Twitter. That the possibility for this thing to be going violent was high. And there were several groups, or at least several folks, who definitely planned for things to go south. I mean, there's like pictures. There's literal pictures of people wearing Civil War January 6th t-shirts. I mean, unless they have like a mobile printer and they were printing these t-shirts on site, correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems like something they had to pre-order. To your point, Jared Cardenas, honestly, I think this is going to be a big back and forth between who is responsible. There's going to be a lot of back and forth saying, oh no, it was actually the failure of the intelligence community. Oh no, it was actually a failure of the law enforcement on the ground. That was actually a failure of the National Guard. Like, they're going to keep throwing fingers around. Gotcha, K-Variable. So, it leaves enough plausible deniability, but again, I'm sure that more information is going to come out, and those that were involved, I'm sure, we're going to know. Here's something cool. Very good, very not worrying. Trump teases 2024 run with during Orlando event with O'Reilly. Ah yes. At an event in Orlando on Sunday, former President Trump hinted that he may run for office again in 2024, an idea that he's publicly teased for months now. I said loud and clear, the former president, according to the Orlando Sentinel, we won the first time, and the second time we won by even more. Wrong. You took an L, dude, and it looks like we might have to think about very strongly a third time. What? Now, though thousands of people gathered in the crowd, the turnout was less than expected for the event, which is a part of four-city history tour alongside with former Fox News host Bill O'Reilly. Yeah, Mr. Bill O'Reilly, who took a permanent vacation, right? There was a lot of lead up to January 6th, several Proud Boy marches, and some InfoWar rallies. Yeah, he was there, wasn't he? Wasn't Alex Jones there too? Trump's representative had previously predicted the events would sell out, but on Sunday morning, the tickets that had once valued at least 100 had dropped to 40. Yeah, that's a nice meme. O'Reilly told the crowd, "This is not a rally, we're going to talk about very serious things." During the event, Trump took credit for COVID vaccines, calling them one of the greatest bets in world history because the 3 vaccine had gone all over the world and saved millions and millions of lives. Oh, so now, wait, so now vaccine good? Huh. Now vaccine good?
I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccine.
Thank you. He also said no mandates or whatever. Trump also referred to the Biden president as a vessel controlled by former President Obama, source, in addition to downplaying the mob that stormed the January 6th. Of course, the former president was also booed when he said, I don't want to hurt a family in response to a question about a possible investigation into Biden's son, Hunter. Trump's remark about a possible campaign comes from his former vice president, Mike Pence, also fuels speculation of a 2024 presidential run of his own. Pence, who made several campaign-style stops in New Hampshire last week, did not rule out the possibility of 2024 when speaking with the CNN reporter. "I can honestly tell you in 2023, my family and I will do what we always have done. We'll reflect, we'll pray, and determine where we might best serve and where we'll go where we're called." O'Reilly during Sunday's event suggested Florida Governor DeSantis as a potential running mate for Trump, the Sentinel reported. "I think people are going to be very happy with what I do. He's certainly somebody that I like a lot." Yeah, I know. Trust me. We know. In a video game. Jesus Christ. Anyways, credit to Darknet. He called this, even months before, Trump continuously teased a potential run. So credit to where credit's due. Darknet, one of our mods, is correct. I'm pretty sure he's correct. Like 99% chance this guy's gonna run. The question is, what is the Democratic Party going to do? That is the question. What is the Democratic Party going to do? Because like, it's not exactly in a good position right now, and their ineptitude and failure will, well, it is not out of the realm of possibility that 1, Donald Trump runs, and 2, wins. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It is a absolutely possible event that could happen. Irked, resubscribing with 6 months. Thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I love those little emotes. Jack has such great emotes. Oh, this is the candle factory. Okay, folks, if you guys want to take a look at this one here from K Variable, check this out. Jack do be having some good emotes for sure. True. That is very true. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate that. Oh, no, kitty. She was like almost sliding off my lap. Kitty. Okay, we're good. One of these tornadoes, just going really quickly back to the original story we opened up with. One of the tornadoes was on the ground for over 220 miles. Anywhere from 200 to 227 miles. That is unbelievable. Can I help you, kitty? So my cat has decided that she's going to take over the keyboard. My cat has decided that she's going to take over the keyboard. Okay, that's cool. I don't get to watch nearly as often as I'd like, but supporting you is a no-brainer. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you, Eric. That means a lot. Just the devastation is unbelievable to me. I'm gonna post this one in chat too.
So I guess that's a good thing. That we haven't reached our first climate-induced famine yet.
Jesus.
Hey y'all, it's Becky here from the Beckosphere, where we talk about climate news and solutions. You have entered my climate recap, where we look back at what is being done to lessen the impacts of and prepare for climate change. I do these recaps about every 2 weeks. This week is a bad example. So if you'd like to keep up to date with the latest climate news, I highly suggest you hit that subscribe button below. This time, we're going to look at the climate news from November 21st to December 3rd. Which starts with a doozy. So let's get into it. Climate change has drastically increased the average number of scorpion stings in Egypt. That's right. A rare flooding event near the Egyptian city Aswan drew a giant nest of scorpions to town, resulting in over 500 stings. Luckily, almost every victim was able to receive anti-venom injections in time, but that's just terrifying and unprecedented. A new study finds that Antarctica could hit its point of no return in as little as 10 years. Point of no return means that positive feedback loops like light reflecting ability, known as albedo, diminishing as ice is replaced by darker water, resulting in the area getting warmer, which melts the ice more. So that's an example of a positive feedback.
We actually went over this story, I don't know, I want to say like last week or 2 weeks ago. Hey, Mizumi.
Loop. Actually, the most important positive feedback loop in this case occurs underwater in the deeper parts of the ice formation, where a reduction of cold water coming in from glaciers results in less mixing of the water column, and this lack of motion means that the ocean can't release as much heat from the atmosphere as efficiently, instead warming up more of the ice. So that's another example of a positive feedback loop, and the one that scientists are the most concerned about in terms of the Antarctic. The researchers looked 20,000 years back in the continent's history using information ice cores extracted from the seafloor provided about what the environment looked like back then. They found that after a certain point of ice melt, the melting rate suddenly becomes much faster, resulting in the whole thing melting in only the span of a decade.
Yikes.
Quote, our study reveals that during times in the past when the ice sheet retreated, the periods of rapid mass loss switched on very abruptly within only a decade or two. Interestingly, after the ice sheet continued to retreat for several hundred years, it switched off again, also only taking a couple of decades. The researchers are seeing a similar amount of sea level rise now that was shown in the ice cores at the precipice of the rapid melting period. In the past, once the continent melts, it takes hundreds of years to freeze back again. It's debatable about how much sea level rise this would cause. The sea level rise contribution could be as little as 10 centimeters to as much as 1 meter by 2100. Keep in mind that the sea also doesn't necessarily rise uniformly.
I was just trying to say, TLDR, thank you so much to Heat420 and Spread It Forward, who are the current mods in the chat. Thank you. And I appreciate that, K-Variable.
Globally. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, the Atlantic Ocean broke into the Arctic Ocean earlier than anyone expected, and its saltier water is melting the Arctic faster. This process is called Atlantification. This process began in the early 20th century, according to a new analysis, and the Arctic Ocean has warmed by 2 degrees Celsius since 1900. This is all news to scientists because there's only been 40 years of satellite data, and it wasn't until the most recent analysis, which used information collected from sediment cores, that they actually realized how long Atlantification has been going on. Seemingly right as the first coal mine was built was when it started. This could either mean that the process is much more sensitive to greenhouse gas emissions than previously thought, or that the system was already shifting and we just made it go faster. The Arctic also could experience more rain than snow during the spring and summer as early as 2060 or 2070, according to a new report in Nature. This is much earlier than scientists originally expected. Raining instead of snowing could further melt the Arctic. This summer, I reported it raining in the Arctic for like the first time in recorded history, and now they're saying that it could become a norm in just 40 years. Switching gears a bit,
Yikes.
The New York State Department of Financial Services became the first state regulator in the US to release detailed guidances on how insurers should manage risks from climate change that can come from extreme weather events or from the aches and pains during the clean energy transition. New York insurers have until August 15, 2022 to implement this guidance on board governances, which could come in the form of designating a member of the board to be responsible for overseeing the management of climate risks. Climate folks hope that because this is such a big state, that this will make an impact across the country. Another cobalt mining project has begun by a Chinese company in the Congo, and villagers are just waiting until their water gets polluted and they're told to relocate. Cobalt is an important rare mineral for making electric vehicles. Right now, 2/3 of global cobalt supplies come from Congo, but its residents see little of that wealth it produces. The US and China are fighting to see who can colonize the resources faster. China is winning. You can read more about this whole drama by clicking the source link below. Protests by environmental defenders and indigenous groups continue in Canada over the Coastal GasLink injunction project that's being illegally continued on Wet'suwet'en land. Activists, legal observers, and now journalists have been arrested by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or RCMP, armed with canine units and snipers. Arresting
What?
journalists along these circumstances is especially a bad look for the RCMP because the Supreme Court already ruled in favor of journalists who were arrested.
Yes. These environmentalist folks definitely bring out the snipers. What?
During the Ferry Creek blockade earlier this year. Human rights organizations are calling on the Canadian government to withdraw police and security forces from the area. The Midwest energy company Tallgrass Energy Partners announced that they canceled plans for a $2.5 billion oil terminal in Louisiana's Plank Mines Parish and will instead look for other uses of that site. Then in Oregon, the Pembina Pipeline Corporation announced it's scrapping its plans to develop the Jordan Cove Energy Project and Pacific Connector Pipeline, a plan that would have shipped gas down Oregon and created a plant in Coos Bay that would have shipped gas then to Asia.
Thank you for the follow. The one and only Trucker Carlson. Thank you.
They canceled due to years of setbacks. General Motors is expanding their electric vehicle business into electric speedboats, recently acquiring a 25% stake in an electric boating company.
I'm playing Plants
Pure
vs.
Watercraft.
Zombies. That's funny. Wait, GM buys electric speedboat company stake? Yes. Out of all the things that we need to be investing in, it's speedboats. Speedboats. Yeah.
A deal worth $150 million. Work has begun on the U.S.'s first 2 commercial-scale offshore wind farms in federal waters. For Massachusetts,
Darknet.
the $3 billion farm called Vineyard Wind 1 will be located 15 miles off the coast of Martha's Vineyard near Cape Cod and will
You came just in time. You were actually just giving you props earlier for what seems to be like a very accurate prediction of Trump's running. It looks like he's actually like at this point it's almost guaranteed that dude's gonna run. Almost guaranteed that dude's gonna run. We went over a recent article saying that he's very, 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 very inclined. And I predicted that MTG would run. No, I could have sworn. I could have sworn you said that. Oh yeah, he's gonna run. He's not gonna accept this. Way back then. I could have sworn. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. I don't know. Although if she runs, I wouldn't be surprised either.
400,000 homes and businesses. In New York and Rhode Island, the offshore wind project South Fork Wind, spanning both states' coasts, will produce enough energy to satisfy 70,000 homes. President Biden announced the Department of Energy will release 50 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in an effort to lower prices. Meanwhile, the EPA is forcing gas processing plants to publicly report emissions of benzene and other toxic air pollutants to the EPA's toxic release inventory, which is meant to inform citizens on what air pollutants they are breathing in and hopefully increase public pressure on these companies to behave better. Reports are due by July 2023, and compliance costs are estimated to be around $11.8 million for the first year and $5.6 million every year after. About 1.4 million people live within 3 miles of a gas processing plant. Boston's mayor signed an ordinance designed to divest the city from fossil fuels. Basically, public taxes will no longer be used to invest in stocks, securities, or other obligations of any company that derives more than 15% of its revenue from fossil fuels. This ordinance also holds the same rule for tobacco and private prisons.
What?
This will pull about $65 million immediately out of the fossil fuel industry. Quote,
what?
This is deeply personal for many of us and urgent. My older son, Blaze, was born in the first year I served in this building and the first year that we started to hear it was the hottest year ever on record. Since then, his 6 years alive on this planet have been the hottest on record. we're moving quickly to make sure that Boston will set the tone for what is possible for that brightest, greenest future for all of our kids. The financial institutions Morgan Stanley and Enterprise announced that they will begin loaning money to multifamily rental buildings to rebuild after extreme weather events. This will provide money to people to rebuild way sooner than the federal government has been able to provide it, which is an average of 20 months before they get their money after the disaster.
Jeez.
The loans will then be paid back with interest using federal disaster recovery money from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban.
Actually, yeah, chat. We are currently 12 days. 12 days. Okay. We are deep in the trenches on the war on Christmas. Okay, help us out by typing exclamation Xmas and participating and showing your support. Okay. By turning this chat green and red.
Development. Similarly, Demex Group, which recently formed a partnership
True,
with
I love the
insurance
Dolphin bot.
API service platform Vave, announced it raised $9 million in Series A funding for their product designed to provide up to $1,000 of cash immediately when the temperature hits a certain threshold. By doing so, they're bridging the gap between when a disaster strikes and when traditional.
Folks, also stay tuned. After this video, we've got a short story, and a announcement after this. Okay.
Additional insurance might reimburse for physical damage.
Yeah, where's your Christmas spirit,
The
chat?
International Energy Agency, or IEA, released an analysis on the rise of carbon capture technology. As you can see from this graph, this
You're already
year
good, Earth.
has seen a
You're already good. You don't need to do anything.
huge influx of projects in the early and advanced stages of development. Over 100 projects were announced in 2021, and the IEA analysis shows they expect less projects to be canned than in previous years. If all these projects ended up being used, that would have the capacity of removing about 40 million tons of CO2. However, the IEA's roadmap calls for 1.6 million tons by 2030, so this industry still has a long way to go to become as helpful as many industries and governments want it to be. The Department of Interior released a report on Black Friday, that's November 26th for you non-Americans, analyzing the U.S. oil and gas leasing program. The document recommends higher royalty rates, bidding costs, and rental costs.
What?
And
I didn't know that.
It calls for the White House to get pickier on which land and water to offer.
My dad is.
But the report doesn't talk at all.
My dad is colorblind as well.
About climate change in their plan. BP announced it plans to set up a large-scale green hydrogen production plant in northeast England. The plant, called High Green Teesside, will generate hydrogen using wind, solar, and water energy. The European charging company Ionity is devoting $800 million to helping its goal of 7,000 charging points by 2025. Ionity is a joint venture between automakers BMW, Ford, Hyundai, Mercedes, and VW. And now the investment giant BlackRock has announced its contribution to the fund. Remember how I talked about how the coal ash plant in southeast Memphis was being protested by residents? Well, the project was approved to continue. Houston, Texas is proposing a $9 billion highway widening project for the area, but many of the residents living near the trucking routes are people of color, and this would further increase the air pollution in that area. It would also displace 1,000 homes and 344 businesses, 2 schools, and 5 places of worship, again, mostly inhabited by people of color. Not to mention, highway widening doesn't improve traffic. This is coming from a Californian who has seen numerous attempts of this. Maybe it would help evacuation needs, like the proponents claim. For weeks, there have been farmer protests in the streets of the central Iranian city, Isfahan, over water shortages. Experts estimate that 97% of the country is experiencing a water shortage. The farmers want the government to restore flow to the Zayzan Durad River to help irrigate farmlands that have been drying up from a history of water mismanagement. The government is starting to violently shut down those protests.
Yikes.
A new study found that climate change is increasing the divorce rate of albatrosses.
Aw,
Albatrosses are
that's-
some of the most monogamous animals in the animal
What?
kingdom, with a breakup rate of about 1 to 3%. But warming ocean temperatures have caused that number to jump up to 8% as the birds are having to travel farther and search longer for food. Overall, warmer waters mean less fish. A different study, this one by the medical journal Lancet, looked at the correlation between deforestation and heat exposure in Indonesia, specifically Birau. They found that between 2012 and 2018, about 17% of the country's forests were cut down. Deforestation increased the temperature in that area by 0.86 degrees Celsius.
But yeah, that 0.86 doesn't seem like a lot, but that's massive. That is massive. It's like likely going to get worse since Iran is the hottest country on the planet. Jeez.
Accounting for an estimated 7.3 to 8.5% of all-cause mortality. It also increased unsafe work time. And yet another study found that the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, or ACC, the only current that circles the whole planet, is flowing faster due to climate change. The current brings cold water to the south and warm water to the north, and is mostly driven by the wind. The speed of the current is expected to continue to increase as the planet continues to heat up, and this increase in speed could impact many marine ecosystems. Sortera Alloys, a company seeking to achieve 100% reuse of aluminum waste from end-of-life products, announced it has received $10 million in funding from Bill Gates' affiliated Breakthrough Energy Ventures. Aluminum is one of the most carbon-intensive products to make, so reducing how much new aluminum pieces are being made is a big feat, especially since the IEA says the industry isn't on track to meet its energy intensity reduction needs to meet net zero scenarios. It needs to drop by 3% every year from now to 2030. The recycling process uses much less CO2 than making new products, so this could be a good method of how to do that. Sortera's pilot facility is in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and its processes use AI to analyze photos of scrap metal to categorize each piece so they can be used in the most efficient and effective way. They have begun shipping trial material for use in cars, construction, and aircraft parts. I'm curious if they account for aluminum contaminated by organic materials like food. Pro tip, if something has organic material on it, it's not recyclable because it can clog up the recycling machines. I'm talking about like the pizza boxes, paper towels,
That's
aluminum
right.
wrapping. Don't wish cycle. Wish cycling can be worse than putting something recyclable in the trash. The average lithium-ion battery pack price fell another 6% from last year to $132 per kilowatt hour, which is an 89% decline since 2010, adjusted for inflation. But the research firm Bloomberg NEF warns that the price could rise in 2022 because of increased costs of key materials such as electrolytes. Supply chain issues, basically. Australia's coal mine Glencore PLC is a methane super emitter with an annual emissions rate equivalent to 4 million US cars. As a reminder, because I haven't said this in a while, methane emits 80 times as much heat as CO2 in the first 2 decades of it being released into the atmosphere. It does have a shorter half.
You've got a pushy bot shilling your YouTube channel? Listen. Have you subbed? I'm gonna check later. Looking forward to landfills full of solar cells.
Half-life of CO2, but it's still very potent. Calgary, Canada, capital of the oil-rich Alberta province, has declared a climate emergency. They are now working to create a plan to get to net zero climate pollution by 2050. I like that they said climate pollution in general instead of CO2 because that makes them look at things like methane, nitrogen.
Net fucked by 2050. is all I hear. I'm
nitric
sorry.
oxide and other climate warming molecules. So not just carbon. Calgary joins other Canada cities like Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto, who have also declared a climate emergency. A new book called 1001 Voices on Climate Change, written by journalist Debbie Lockwood, aims to humanize the climate crisis and inspire action by presenting 1001 first-hand stories of climate change from around the world. A new analysis of scientific research warns that the Pacific Northwest Cascade Mountain Range is expected to lose its snowpack by a quarter by 2050 and up to 3/4 by 2100. Some studies they reviewed said that the Cascades are heading for a little to no snow future as early as 2070.
Yikes.
The Cascades provide a lot of water to Washington, Oregon, and California. Drastic reductions of greenhouse gas emissions could still keep this from being a reality. The largest museum complex in the world, the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., is being threatened by flooding. It seems that the American Indian Museum building is the most at risk for flooding. On December 1st, United Airlines flew the world's first passenger flight powered by 100% sustainable aviation fuels from Chicago, Michigan to Arlington, Virginia. The plane was a 737 MAX 8.
Right, ADT like security, exactly. Because like, have I secured your YouTube sub? I don't know. I'm gonna check back. I see everything. A difficult bot isn't even subbed. What? How dare this bot? This bot is really trying chat today. This bot is really trying chat today. The allegations against the difficult bot are mounting. Yeah, I see that.
CEO.
What if I told you I am a difficult bot? What if I told you that was the truth?
And partners of the newly expanded EcoSkies Alliance, which includes companies like Siemens, Palantir, and Salesforce. You might be wondering, what is sustainable aviation fuels?
Palantir?
Well, SAF
oh my god. That's so ominous. That is ominous. Okay.
Are mainly made up of feedstock like household waste or algae. It's not carbon neutral, but it produces less emissions than the traditional fossil fuels by how much depends on what feedstock is being used. Current regulations only allow SAF to represent up to half of fuels being used because it can be mixed with traditional fossil fuels. So taking a flight that's powered by 100% SAFs is the next frontier. And this was the first flight to do so. The day after United Airlines' first sustainable flight, British Airways became the first airline
to use
sustainable aviation fuel produced in the UK, following a multi-year agreement with Phillips 66 Ltd. A new report by the Smith Futures Bioeconomy Task Force makes the economic and environmental case for investing billions of dollars to build out the bioeconomy. This means transitioning to bio-based food, fuel, and materials. Side note, but aren't all foods bio-based? I'm guessing that they mean less synthetic or maybe moving away from plastic packaging. Anyways, the report calculates that the biology-based economy already generates $960 billion in 2016, representing about 5% of the US GDP. And if the US invests billions in research and manufacturing, it has the potential to create more than 1 million new jobs, keep $260 billion in economic activity from going overseas, and reduce annual CO2 emissions by 450 million tons.
Not all foods are bio-based, gotcha.
I find this stuff fascinating because things like plastic are just so ingrained in our culture. But imagine if all the plastic was made from like mycelium, from fungi, or like from plant cells instead. Pair that with a robust composting program, and consumption could become more of a part of nature's circulatory system. The study authors emphasize the need for research funding in this area for it to become a reality. A report by the financial advisory firm Lazard found a relationship between emissions cutting and higher share prices relative to earnings, which is a metric of investor confidence. They explored the equity values and emissions of over 16,000 companies around the world in 2016 to 2020 and found that the more greenhouse gases the company emits, the lower its stock price is relative to its earnings. In this way, it pays to prioritize dropping company emissions. The relationship between emissions and market performance is more pronounced for larger companies than smaller. The firm predicts valuations will become increasingly linked to emissions as CO2 prices rise in Europe and as climate controls grow stronger overall. Europe's experiencing a cold snap, the opposite of what policymakers were hoping for with the energy crisis. Scandinavia is being hit the hardest with temperatures
Yikes.
in Sweden as low as -35 degrees Fahrenheit in the first week of December. My little California soul cannot even fathom. Quote, "If this trend line continues, we are headed from a crunch to a crisis." The global wind power group Iberdrola and the Swedish startup H2 Green Steel plan to build a vast green hydrogen plant in the Iberian Peninsula between Spain and Portugal. The goal is for the plant to power iron production used to make steel with much less carbon emissions. They're trying to see if the plant will end up on the Spain side or the Portugal side. General Motors announced a joint venture with South Korean company POSCO Chemical to build a North American process.
Whoa, USA Whole rating with a party of 26. Welcome everybody. Howdy, howdy. Folks, I get really excited to see more folks looking into mushrooms for sustainable production. Yes, that is true. Folks, welcome everybody. If you guys don't know who we are A Difficult Truth. We do news and politics Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And join us Saturdays around noon Eastern Time for Saturday Catterdays. Hit that follow button. You get 5 free emotes. Thinking Sabercat, how's it going? Thank you, welcome everybody. Thank you so much. Really quickly also, thank you Radical Maniac for the early raid too. Aloha, thank you. Princess Fina, hi there. Mr. Braindead, ADT long time no see, how's it going? Wonderful folks in chat. We are currently watching a recap of climate news.
Processing facility for key materials needed for EV batteries. Quote, "We are building a sustainable and resilient North American focused supply chain for EVs covering an entire ecosystem from raw materials to battery cell manufacturing and recycling." The National Academy of Sciences released a report calling for the US to make less plastic to save the oceans. The US is the world's top plastic polluter. They found that about 2.4% of the US's plastic waste ends up in the ocean, which is about 2.2 billion pounds a year.
Jesus.
If our current trajectory increases, we'll be putting 53 times that by 2030 into the ocean, equivalent to about half the weight of the fish caught in the seas. And while some plastic is technically recyclable, that's a very small percentage compared to what is being used. Even upping recycling and proper disposal isn't enough, says the report. We must use less plastic.
True.
And I'm not going to advocate for the zero waste mentality because that puts too much weight on consumers to swim against the current, but reduce as much as you can and vote and advocate for larger systemic change. I recommend Shel Beasley is a good YouTuber that talks about how to decrease your
massive change in our consumption.
I don't focus as much on that on my channel just because I don't know, I think it puts more of a weight on me and what I'm doing, and I'd rather put more of a weight on what governments and companies are doing. You know what I mean? As a reminder, plastic is set to replace coal as the main carbon emitting industry by 2030. Several climate recaps back, probably in the summer, I reported that Madagascar was experiencing the first recorded climate change induced famine. Well, it turns out that climate change isn't actually the main driver of the food crisis, but rather a combination between poverty, deforestation, and COVID restrictions is mostly to blame. So I guess that's a good thing that we haven't reached our first climate-induced famine yet. After a large
Yet.
battle between Shell and environmental groups over the Cambo oil project in Britain's North Sea, Shell has pulled out of the project, saying the project was not economically viable. But many suspect that climate protests had a lot to do with that decision, especially because several Scottish leaders were part of the protest. Shell held 30% of the project's shares, the rest held by Siscar Point, and they say that they remain committed to the North Sea fossil fuel industry. But since then, the North Sea oil industry seems to be kind of in a disarray. Axios reported on a lobbyist of the Russian gas company Nord Stream 2 providing maximum campaign contributions to U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Democratic senators from Nevada, Connecticut, Washington, and New Hampshire. While there was no specific ask going with the money, it's heavily implied that that money is meant to persuade the senators to vote against reimposing sanctions on Nord Stream 2, which is on the table in the US government right now. Some US utility companies are playing around with the idea of using EVs to help manage electricity demand in a community. Instead of just charging EVs when they're plugged-in EVs could be used as a power-sharing battery on the grid. EV owners can earn rebates and cash rewards from smart charging programs by letting utilities control when their car is being charged based on overall energy demand. The Electric Reliability Council of Texas has about 1,000 EV owners trying this out right now, turning their cars into a cloud-based virtual power plant. I think this is such a cool idea because it kind of breaks the need for utility scale battery storage to some extent. The EPA announced it will provide $7.4 billion to states and reservations to improve water quality and access starting in 2022. This will be the first big installment coming from the infrastructure bill, besides I guess like the offshore wind projects technically were also big installments. If you want to learn more about different climate provisions in the infrastructure bill, I did a video on that, which you can check out up there. Meanwhile, in Canada, internal documents leaked from Alberta's environmental ministry shows that Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan, and Nova Scotia worked to overhaul imposed coal mine water pollution regulations. Originally, final regulations were expected to come this fall, but now they're expected to come in 2023. The city government officials called water pollution regulatories unnecessary and significant impact on industry and economies. You know what's also a big significant impact on economies? Unhealthy people from water contamination. Climate change. But I digress. And we end with Montana on fire. 24 homes and businesses burned down from wildfires caused by a record December windy heat wave. And that was the climate news from November 21st to December 3rd. Before I go, I want to highlight some links I put in the resource section below. First, we have the breakdown of how PR companies have aided in our fossil fuel dependency. I think I want to dive deeper in that in a video, so stay tuned for that. There's also 2 links from Gizmodo providing commentary and recommendations about which climate organizations are the best to donate to, so be sure to check that out before making donations. However, if you would like to support the work I do, I would be a lovely climate organization to donate to.
True. Appreciate that. Let's get some shout outs to the monkaS. Folks, go sub to this channel, alright? Alright, folks. So we got 2 things left. So yesterday I was hanging out with my friend. I was hanging out with my friend who I consider basically like a brother. I've mentioned this before. I consider them a non-biological brother, and they are getting married on this upcoming Monday, actually, next week. And so a couple of things. Number one, the stream. I don't believe there's going to be a stream on this Saturday in particular. And I believe Monday and Tuesday will be special reruns that are designed like for long period content. So they're going to be reruns from a previous interview. And I think Wednesday, we'll see. We'll see about Wednesday. So the worst case that happens is that Monday and Tuesday there'll be reruns. I highly recommend you check it out. Very good stuff. And on Wednesday there may not be a stream. So next Wednesday, Thursday I assume we'll be back to normal schedule. And the second announcement before we get into the little story is on the 15th, December 15th, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. The wonderful, awesome Bela will be joining us for a double feature on the 15th. So we will have our normal news show in the AM, and we're going to have a special double feature, and we're going to have a sit down and talk with Bela when it comes to the climate crisis. I'm sure that she's going to divulge a plethora of information, so I'm hoping that this is going to be a massively informative stream in the evening. So make sure you hit the follow button and join us there. Join the Discord also, because if you join the Discord, you'll get all the notifications and updates from the channel, and just hang out with some wonderful folks. Yeah, it's going to be an info-splosion. That's it right there. Info-splosion. I just noticed that you have a Santa hat on. It took me, yeah, I'm the lead coordinator for the War on Christmas. Clearly. So make sure you join the Discord to keep up with that or any updates in the channel. So I'm really excited to have a sit down chat with Bela. She's very, 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 very good when it comes to climate crisis. Very, very informed. So I hope that we'll have a awesome, informative info-splosion, as Silver Knight Dragon posted, and we'll be reaching out to more folks to try to get more collaborations going in the future. That being said, so small story time, I guess. Yesterday I was talking with my friend, who, as I said, he's like a brother, non-biological brother. He's getting married, and we're gonna head up to Tennessee for that. My ship of Yule log mortars is on the way, so they're gonna get married. It's gonna be a fantastic time. I can't wait. Finally, that I will get a vacation, a good, well-deserved vacation. Not just like a day off or an extra weekend. No, this is going to be a vacation. So as we were talking and discussing things, he was telling me that, like, because he's a researcher. He's been to the Arctic. Actually, Astro, let me put these links in chat. Astro gave me a link for, studies on the ice cores and things like that. He actually was part of expeditions in the Arctic to get said ice cores and to document all this data and stuff like that. So that is part of his job. He's also been working to restore the Biscayne National Park, and developing plans for an attempt to restore the wetlands and mangroves and seagrass here in South Florida. And he was telling me a story that one of his classmates came upon data, and this was years ago, because right now at this point he's up for his master's, but years ago at the university he was at, one of his classmates came to some very alarming data about what could possibly happen down the road. And he said that he tried talking about it, and he told the staff, which, funny enough, became my brother's, I want to say boss, or was his boss, I don't know. One of those two. Either it was his previous boss or is his current boss, one of the two. And he presented this data and was told not to talk about it. He was told not to talk about it, about what the potential fallout should nothing be addressed. And, well, he didn't shut up. He started talking about it around campus. So much so that word got around to the Miami Beach city government. And the city government actually found out, called the university, and told the university to shut this guy up. And none of the information was published. None of the data, none of these studies, none of his studies were published. And years down the road, which I believe we reported on too, fast forward, I think, I want to say 2020, there was like a massive fish die-off. There was a massive fish die-off here in the South Florida. And I'm pretty sure we reported on it because it was really big. I'm pretty sure because I remember either I read something about this or we must have talked about it on stream, or I read something about this. And that was the end result. So the Miami Beach city government covered up the research, the data that was available to them. Clearly they heard about it and did nothing for fear of driving away tourism. For fear of driving away tourism. And for fear of driving away tourism. And the end result was a massive fish die-off, and everybody was surprised Pikachu facing at the idea. But the actual city council government had this information for a very long time and did nothing about it. Seems to be kind of a trend, right? Hey, Basic PJ, nothing but red tide here in Tampa Bay. That's true. That's true, red tide is huge here. And that was before the Piney Point leaked out phosphate water. Yeah, dead rotting fish drives away tourists. Yeah, which happened anyways. The result was catastrophic, and it's just to kind of illustrate, like, the frustration. And he was telling me, like, as a researcher, what his experiences are and how he feels about having been working on this for years and years and years, having known somebody who was shut up in an attempt to actually, like, do something about an impending ecological disaster. And he was telling me the struggles about keeping, his head up and just trying to, like, do what he can, especially, like, with his job and all, right? And he says that the best thing that he has come up with is just there's many people working on different lanes at the same time, and I've just got to focus. I've just got to stay focused. And we're all working towards that collective, like, answer, right? Like, what do we do about climate change? Just everyone is on their own lanes, and he has found that it helps. It helps with the mental aspect of it, because it is frustrating, and it is disheartening to see your work it's like months and months and months and months of work, just be told, like, just to be shrugged off. Yeah, just to be shrugged off. And that's the reality we're living in here, and we need to build essentially awareness and political will to attempt to turn this around, because, like, clearly there is a lot of incentives and interests that are massive and pushing against any action when it comes to addressing the climate crisis. And one of the things that I told him that I would advocate for, because I'm myself not a climate scientist in any capacity, but I did put forth the idea of maybe climate scientists and the sorts should get together and create some type of media outreach where they can address the public directly in addition to sending this information to, you know, the officials, whether it be city officials, state officials, federal officials, depending on where and how you work and what capacity you work. In addition to that, in parallel, have routine public outreaches. You don't even have to necessarily tie it to the government or anything like that. But do it as like a science outreach, as a informative PSA, if you will, with the public, and be one-on-one with them. I understand that the science behind climate is very intricate, but there must be some type of effort to really bring this forth. To really bring this forth, because like I don't see, in terms of like how to develop awareness, any other way other than like stuff like how the Beckosphere gets out there on YouTube and things like that. But that needs to be constant. That needs to be constant. What is your opinion on China-Taiwan issue? I don't... Issue? If you form up anything that has an impact, you will be treated like WikiLeaks. That is true. That's literally what happened, Astro London. That is literally what happened. The person who worked, like base of PJ just said, putting hours upon hours of good faith, honest work into solving Florida's environmental challenges, just to have your university called up by the city government and told to, you know, you need to shut this guy up, or you need to like do something about this, is just showing that where we need to be, we're far from it. We're far from it. We're far from it. We're far from it, and we need to do what we can within the time that we have, with the tools that we have, which is what my brother agreed. I mean, like, that's what he is going to do. His purpose is to figure out and present the findings of how to increase and preserve the wetlands in Biscayne National Park. You think it's a movie, Bob? But what AT talks about happens all the time down here? Yeah, I'm just bringing it up from the closest thing to hearing it from somebody as possible, right? I'm just bringing it up as a example of the multitude of problems that are, you know, in our systems, and the things that encourage them, like tourism, which is money, and you know, greed. All of these come into play. All of these things come into play, and it is absolutely not something so far-fetched. It happens a lot, and this is the closest I have to, like, basically as secondhand as I can, right? Someone who literally works and touches the data, gets out there, has been to the Arctic twice, works in Biscayne National Park, telling me that this is a thing. This is a thing. This isn't a doom or pill moment, right? Because the worst thing that can happen is to transform into doomerism, but it is a point of reference of the task at hand, and it should motivate us to rally up whatever tools, time that we have, is what we should be doing. We should be organizing, and we should be much more attentive to what's going on in our local government and our state government, things like that, because it is a serious issue. It impacts us all, but we do what we can within the time we have, within the tools that we have. Not gonna lie, the doom has got to me. It almost did for a moment there, Darknet. It almost really did, especially with like the whole situation that we were having a couple weeks ago, months ago, with the BBB, and how, like, just bold-faced, horrible, and how bold-faced people like Manchin are. I was like this close, but like, it's like you've got to rally, and you've got to like You've got to rally and try to do. I mean, like, obviously, none of us are Superman. None of us are going to solve this with a snap, right? But you do what you can. That's all you can ask. And to try to be engaged. Like, you can't let. There is a small amount of doomerism that should be used as a conduit to make change, right? That should be used as a conduit to make change, and use that energy to be more engaged, not less. Between wealth inequality, the climate, and the social issues, yeah, I completely see it. I've especially with this new variant, yeah. I mean, for sure. Hospitals are full here again. Yikes. I mean, you do what you gotta do to protect yourself and your family, Dark Knight. Not gonna lie, it is very, you know, that is absolutely very close to sending me, like, I was very close. I was like this close into into going into full, like, black pill. Eco Rester Dragon, I just got my booster and flu shot yesterday. Nice. I posted something to cheer us up from the UK in whispers. I thought on Hispanics who like Reagan because of amnesty and Trump for jobs. What? Misled? Misled is what I would is my thought. Because it's about that time, folks, I'm just gonna post this here from Thinking Sabercat. Before we sign off, hang tight, everybody, as we're gonna go raiding. So hang tight with me, everybody. I want to thank everybody for hanging out. Thank you, Darknet. Thank you, Spread It Forward. Thank you, Heat420_. Thank you all for dipping out for a spell. Take care. You take care. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the support, Irked. I appreciate that. Thank you for all the new follows. Thank you so much for the raid Radical Maniac and a USA hole. I appreciate that. You guys are what makes this channel grow. If you guys enjoy the content, don't forget, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff on the YouTubes. Hit that follow button. You get 5 free emotes. What more can you love? Join the Discord for any offline conversation. And join us this 15th, okay? This 15th, it is a infoplosion. I'll take Silver Night Dragon's word. An infoplosion with Bela, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And don't forget, folks, no Saturday Catterday for this weekend, and I think no Wednesday stream next week. Keep up with the channel by joining the Discord, and of course, don't forget, folks, head on over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Irked, I'm gonna go into my YouTube, and I better see your name. I can't help the doom. I've been chronically ill my whole life, now terminal. Oh man, poor, traumatized, victimized by systemic violence, and the climate looks gloomy. Well, I can't blame you. I mean, what is there to say? What is there to say? I mean, what can I say? Don't be? Sorry to hear that. It's not Irked on YouTube. Don't worry, I will know, okay? I know and I see everything. Alright, folks, as always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya! Absolutely, we're here if you need anything and can possibly help. Always, let us know. Hang tight, everybody. Hey, happy Monday. Glad you came by on on the end of it. Thank you, Spread It Forward. You know, that's really kind. Alright, folks, hang tight with us. You know, I haven't stopped by a Lucid Fox stream in like over 9,000 times, okay? I have not stopped by in such a long time. So I think like we'll hang tight in what I remember to be a more chill stream. Alright folks. Hang tight with us. Wait. Alright, yeah, hang tight with us. There we go. Got it. Hang tight with us, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you. See ya.